So we're here. I guess this is the first go at a podcast because you and I talk. We talk a lot. We've known each other for a long time. By the way, this is Chris Shanahan, folks. He's a fellow realtor with the New Hampshire with the home team.
The home team.
We sell a lot of houses in New Hampshire for sure, and Massachusetts for that matter. And Chris joined. I've known Chris for a long time. He was a baseball player at Daniel Webster College. I always give him credit for this. He doesn't ever give me enough credit for this, but he was the national batting champion for the NCAA with a .542 batting average in 2006.
But it was 524.
542.
We'll say 542 for today.
524. Led the whole nation, Rob.
Wow.
The country.
Do you know in
the United States?
I played college basketball for about 3 weeks. NAIA.
Yeah.
Linden State College.
Nice.
We played a tournament in not Caribou, that way up in Maine.
Nova Scotia.
Presque Isle.
Presque Isle.
We played in Presque Isle.
Umpy.
And I had a 60% three-point field goal percentage for the tournament.
Wow.
And
2
then,
for 3?
Yeah.
3 for 5.
3 for 5. Oh, 3 for 5.
No, 6 for 10. For the tournament.
Not bad.
And that's it.
Not quite 542.
Second semester came. I had to go and work and quit the team. But, of course, the caveat is that there was no one cut from the team.
I've been there, too.
Anybody could have made that team.
We've been there. So anyway, Chris, over the years, I've learned that he comes up with. You have thoughts and you share them on social media, and we'll talk a lot about social media. But you usually back them up with some pretty good facts, and you're pretty consistent. So for a first guest for a show called Reasonable and Rational, I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
So a lot's been going on in the last few months. People have been stuck at home. People have been told to stay home. People are wearing masks. There have been senseless killings. There's been politics just being thrown around left and right. And all of those things kind of tie into each other. And, I think we could start with this. What do you think? What do you think the pandemic is doing to the country at the moment? Like, what do you think? Do you think it's? I mean, there's been talk of hoaxes. There's been talk of it's too much. It's too little. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the hoax thing is anybody that thinks it's a hoax there's something wrong with them. But I think you have to start to question what information are we getting that's real. So, 1 minute you hear the death toll's down, but now everything's spiking, and we really can't get a true grasp on what we're being given, and it's only being given through the media essentially. And you watch one station, of course we won't, CNN, Fox, but you get information in different ways. So in all reality, who's right, who's wrong? For me, that's where I started questioning it. I think my question, I don't want to sound like the conspiracy theorist, but I feel like they're hiding stuff from us. So that's where I think. So
I was telling you a little bit earlier, telling you and Rob about a conversation, I guess I would call it, I was having with one of my mom's friends on her Facebook page. She had posted something about, we talked about the hoax. She had posted something about a tweet that Chuck Woolery made. And then he ended up deleting his tweet and his entire account because his son was, so Chuck Woolery, for those who don't know, famous entertainer, talk show, not a talk show host, but a game show host. Been around for a while. He tweeted at some point that COVID is lies. He didn't believe that COVID actually existed. Well, that's ignorant and that's dumb. That is, it's definitely there. And then his son tested positive and now is fighting the battle. That kind of touches on what you said, and you start talking about it with people, and there's a reasonable and rational way to go about life, and it's what you just said. I think you hit the nail on the head. You question it. Most people, I believe, are smart enough to form their own opinions. We're in this age of social media where, and we say, listen, we all come across the millennials, and we say that they're pretty much told what to think by the social media. Social media kind of rolls, teaches everybody what they're supposed to believe, and unfortunately, that's happening on both ends of the spectrum politically. The far right and the far left are taking these things, grasping onto them as if they're gospel, or, I mean, that's even, somebody will get on me for saying that,
Yep.
So you've made some posts over the years, or over the last few months, but you back them up. So when you're backing up your opinion and somebody questions you on it, you come back with facts, or at least facts that you've done your research. Where are you getting that information?
Honestly, just different sites. A lot of, like, especially for COVID, a lot of what I do is I do go on the CDC website, I go on the WHO website, and obviously there's their battle between the two of them. But that's really what I do, and then I put the numbers together and say, all right, this is really what's going on. This is, what percentage on the death rate, for instance, because I think that's really the most important thing. The cases of COVID they're making a big deal out of it, but that's not the important number. It's the hospitals and the death rate. And when it comes down to it, if the death rate is 0.04%, should we be concerned? But again, are we really getting the numbers? Florida, I don't know if you saw, they're fudging numbers down there. Instead of it at 9.4%, it's 98% positive rate, which again goes back to what are we really getting from the people that are supposed to give us the correct information.
And who's feeding it, and
Right.
what's their agenda? What, at the end of the day, what are they trying to, are they trying, listen, I'm not going to get into who, I'm not going to say I'm a Trump supporter or a Republican. I am a Republican. I vote Republican typically, but I'm sane enough and reasonable enough to understand that if something is wrong, listen, Donald Trump talks, he sounds like an idiot when he tweets.
Yep.
Economically, he's probably been the best president we've had.
Mm-hmm.
From a leadership standpoint, probably not. Not even in the top 20, probably.
Nope.
Bad, in fact. So, if somebody were to run against him, I would seriously consider voting for somebody else.
Yeah, we talked about Tulsi. Like, if somebody's in that middle of the road, that's what would pull the Trump supporters the other way.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, and that has a lot. So in this particular election that's coming up, they have Joe Biden.
Kanye did drop out.
Did he drop
He's
out?
Not running anymore.
Oh, that's too bad because
he had a shot.
He was going to change. That would be a good time for your Bart Simpson.
That's
Oh, I don't have that one.
You can do that later. Oh, maybe we can find it. Anyway, Tulsi Gabbard. I think that she would have made some noise if. But see, that's the thing. That whole Democratic Party, they squashed her. They
squash everybody, and that's the problem.
They didn't want. For some reason, they felt that Biden is the one that they needed to have there, and I don't know. Maybe he is.
Bernie back in 2016, if he beat Hillary, but they knew that he did not stand a chance against Trump, and they just. You're not voting for the Democratic Party. The Democrats are putting the person they want in front of it.
That they think it can potentially beat Trump.
Right.
You'd think they would have learned their lesson, but
Nope.
So that, I guess that's a good segue, because the pandemic it shouldn't be, but it has definitely become political
And divisive.
and completely divisive, and I think if you have your own ability to ration or to be rational and reason, then you can't be that far left or that far right.
Nope.
You have to be somewhere in that middle area that on this particular topic. What's in the best interest of the people that you care about most? What's in the best interest of the community? What's in the best interest globally? Right? To me, that makes all the sense in the world. Rob, you have any thoughts on that?
sorry,
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
I was just switching cameras here. Say that again, because I know I will have an opinion.
Yeah, well, it's good. That's why we like you. I don't know what I just said. We can rewind it, maybe. I said something along the lines of, we as people have to have the ability to be rational and reason as to what we think is in the best interest of ourselves, our immediate loved ones, our community, and globally. Without being told what we're supposed to believe, we should be able to take the information and process it. And come up with
and
our
I
own
think
opinions.
we spoke a
And
little
not
bit
be
about.
chastised for it, by the way.
Yeah, well,
And
good
that's
luck
the
with that.
problem. Yeah,
But
you are.
I mean, we spoke before about your graphic that you thought it was about. There's the 10% on the far left and 10% on the far right, and then in the middle is about 70%, and another 10%. Who knows where they are? People, it's like everything is either this or that. It's like you can believe that there is a systematic racism problem in this country and be a supporter of police.
Yeah.
You can do both. You can not want to wear a mask, but do it because it's the right thing to do, because it's courtesy. It's common courtesy. Well, they say don't wear a mask, then they say do wear a mask. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, and Chris has probably done the research on that. They said don't wear a mask because it's not going to help you. And then they said, you know what, this is getting out of hand. We should start wearing masks because we're getting other people sick. So it's not like they were saying don't wear a mask because it's a bad idea. They were saying it's not going to help you personally. But now, they come to their senses and say, you probably should wear some kind of face covering. So everything is just like I don't have to wear a mask. It's freedom. It's Trump. It's alt-right. Or I'm wearing a mask because I believe in Black Lives Matter and all Republicans are racist.
Yeah.
It's like those are the two things.
It's unbelievable, and it actually did happen to me today. In fact, I was commenting on my mom's Facebook page, and she's definitely on the left side, probably close to far left.
Jim's mom's Facebook page is very controversial.
If not, have you?
No, I don't know anything about it. I'm just
You should.
gathering that.
Well, it started out just like that. I was questioning the rationale behind posting about Chuck Woolery, and I explained in the post that people can have their own opinions and actually believe what they want to believe without having to be, chastised. And then I got chastised, and I was told that I because I only watch Fox News and I support whatever they call them, Oompa, because of his orange hair supposedly, and then all kind of name calling about about our president of the United States. And it went on, and then I got yelled at for not wearing a mask. And I've never even met this person in my life.
And you do wear your mask.
And I do wear my mask. I have my mask right here just in case we needed it tonight. I wear it wherever I think I need it.
How can you wear a mask with a flag on it? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, people out there, their minds are going to explode. How can you possibly wear a mask with a flag on it? You're obviously anti-American if you're wearing a mask. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's well, clearly I don't like it, but it is the age that we're living in, and it is driven by social media.
Yeah.
Everybody has their opinions now, and they don't. It used to be you don't talk politics, you don't talk religion, and you don't offend anybody. Now everybody offends everybody.
It doesn't matter.
It's constant.
You're going to offend somebody, and that's, I think, when you make comments on the things that I say. I understand I'm going to offend somebody, but I've just gotten to a point where it's frustrating. You had a couple bullet points on there, and one of them was me being that.
Yeah.
So at first, you do. Like, I take offense to it. And then I question, okay, so if, everybody's mad at the middle-aged white male now, that's me. Like, I'm essentially in that group. And at first you get upset, well, why? And then I start to, I've typed out some pretty good comments and delete them. I've gotten better at that.
I do that all the time. That's so funny.
Yeah. So
I type them and send them.
Yeah, you hit send. Irrational. But I think at the same time, for me, reading people posting this stuff, they would never say it to my face.
Right.
They wouldn't. They're not going to put that if we're in the same room. They're going to act differently. But at the same time, I start to think, okay, this is how I feel because people are saying this, and it's crazy for me, even as a white male, to be questioning it. But how does that black male feel? You know, with the color of their skin, that they've been dealing with it forever. So you almost start to see it as being rational.
Yeah, and you will get in trouble for saying that and comparing yourself to a black male too, by the way.
Right.
But I get that point. You know, so to set the
You heard
record
it here first. Chris Shanahan says he has been oppressed.
I have not. No, I have not.
But that's how it goes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
Yeah. So Chris, so one of the bullet points I had was Chris. Chris being, you know, Irish looking, you know, as white as you can possibly be, middle-aged, male, but you coach baseball in a city school for that matter, right?
Yep.
So you're coaching blacks, you're coaching Hispanics, Latinos,
Yep.
And I, you know, I guess you can just tell me this. Do you have the respect of each one of those players?
100%.
100%. And I knew you would answer that.
Yep.
And I've seen it firsthand. And you know, I go back to a couple of things. You know, I've been in locker rooms with black people, with Hispanics, with Latinos, and I never personally looked at them any differently than I would you in the same locker room, for that matter. And so one of the reasons we're doing this show is because I saw a Facebook Live friend of ours, Glenn Murray,
Yep.
baseball player, was pretty passionate about what had happened with George Floyd, and I was watching it, and I don't know if I was ignorant to it, but I definitely was not aware as aware as I should have been. And I said, all right, I got to start figuring out how to be better, and you know, without coming across as pandering or yeah, I mean, or yeah, exactly. I don't want people to think, I don't care what people think, but I know how I feel, and this is one way for me to be able to share it, or the only way I can think of, and we just touched on George Floyd, so that happened, and awful, but now all of a sudden, or after that, every the police are now the bad people, and we're talking about defunding the police and taking away their ability to protect, and that's just so extreme. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and so many people are so passionate about it. And I don't understand that. What do you think about that?
I'm at a loss for that. I don't. Again, it's irrational. It's so far on one side that I don't know if they. All right. Well, it's kind of like how I feel about AOC, right? So I almost feel like they're doing it to get a rise, or they don't really understand what they're saying, but everybody's jumping on board. And to really, you can't be rational if you believe that's a good thing for our country. And I think I saw a meme that said, go up to somebody that wants to defund the police, punch them in the face, and see if they call the police. It's one of those things that they don't realize all the other things that is important from a police.
I mean, it was the worst possible thing that could have happened, but it definitely has brought significant awareness to something that needed to be made aware.
Retrain.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Retraining is, there are things that have to happen. There's no doubt about it, and that's maybe that's a whole other show probably. But where am I going with this? I think so. You know, what's come of this is Black Lives Matter, right? It's now all of this, at first it was like, okay, yeah, well, of course Black Lives Matter. Well, if you start listening to black people and what they've experienced, they may not feel like Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a movement called Black Lives Matter, and that's extreme in itself in some ways, but the theory behind it, or the premise behind it, makes all the sense in the world. So then people start talking about all lives matter instead of Black Lives Matter, and that offends more people. And all lives do matter. Black lives absolutely matter. Of course they do, and they should be equal. They probably aren't, or probably haven't been, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that whole thing. Why are people mad when somebody says Black Lives Matter, and why do people get mad when people say all lives matter? And I don't know. Rob, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think Black Lives Matter,
As a
excuse me, as a grassroots organization that officially 2013 got rolling, but it was kind of a battle cry, if you will. I mean, what do you think NWA was talking about in the 80s?
the wrestling group?
No.
No.
The rap group. This isn't new.
No.
No.
This isn't started in, 2004 or something like that. This has been going on for a long time. The statistics show that you're 2.5 times more likely to die in the hands of police if you are an African American than if you are white. That's the statistics. And why is that? It's not necessarily police tactics. It's the person in the uniform that believes a certain thing. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about defund the police, which is stupid, some places they have where if it's a domestic violence call, they'll send social workers out there instead of police because they're trained to do that. Whereas the police, their job is to make sure no one gets hurt. Anybody acts up, you're going to jail. They're not the jury, not supposed to be the judge and jury of anything. So if you're in a domestic violence and somebody's all riled up and someone's been harmed, the police come, it's an automatic fight, Mm-hmm. Where if a social worker comes, and there are places that shows that this works, maybe you can put a little more money towards that and let the police do policing of drugs and burglaries and rapes and murders and stuff like that.
So I've heard that, and you talk to social workers, and they're not necessarily want to be in that position. They don't get paid enough to put their potential lives in danger. I understand where they can be
that's
helpful.
where the money would come in to make sure that that's an actual
I
thing.
don't think that's what
and
they
another
signed
thing
up
about
for.
that is in police, I mean, I've never been a policeman, but it's like, haha, you have to go to an anger management class. It's like, that should be not a punishment. That should be standard operating procedure. That shouldn't be a punishment.
Requirement.
And mental health is like, if you see a therapist or you see the union rep, then you're weak. Mental health in police departments has to be monumentally hard to be a policeman, especially in places where it's crazy. So you have to take into consideration mental health too. I mean, it's almost like the army. They're made to think that you are out there to bust skulls and bring in the bad guys, where it's not supposed to be like that. And when you get caught because someone calls you and internal affairs says you have to take anger management, and all of your colleagues are like, ha, you got to take anger management, and you feel like an ass, it shouldn't be that way. Anger management and all of these de-escalation things should be standard operating procedure. It shouldn't be after you beat somebody's ass on the road and get caught. Because how many ass beatings have you given before you got caught?
Yep. It should be no different than renewing your license. They should have to do it every so many years and go through the training, de-escalation, and probably give them, this is awful because it costs money, but give them more vacation time, give them more time away. I think it does become extremely stressful. I mean, is somebody stressed in, the police officer, not to take anything away from them, but Litchfield, New Hampshire, and then you put someone in the Bronx.
Well, there's a big difference.
Yeah, so, do we need to spend that money in Litchfield? No. Do we need to funnel money to the Bronx for that kind of training? Yes. Give them a little bit more because they're dealing with a lot more. And I think that's where you see those people. And listen, there are some bad cops. And But I think sometimes they're so stressed at the same time of keeping themselves safe that they panic. And I think that's sometimes, and I think there are a couple that becomes a panic.
And in the George Floyd case, when it was brought up that, I don't remember the guy's name, and I'm glad we don't remember his name, the guy that actually killed him. He had 17 prior instances of issues like that. How does that should never happen. It should be a one-time thing. You get in trouble one time for being overly aggressive with a perp, then you either get put on a desk job or something.
So, but here's a question, and this is what's brought up a lot, is the systemic racism. Somebody at the top let him do that 17 times. So it's not always that person. It's also who's up here making those decisions.
And that's where the accountability.
They let it go.
Right.
And
it's in their union too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not be allowed to punish them because of some clause that we don't know about. So it just needs to be redone from the top down. In some cases from the mayor down or the governor down.
So, well, we've touched on a lot of things tonight. Not sure if we're going to be able to hone in deeper on things every week or what, but before we finish up for tonight, I think it's important that we recognize John Lewis, who passed away. He was instrumental in making it so that the Voting Rights Act in 1965 was passed, and I think that was a huge step in the equality of black people back then. And I think this tying this back into what we just talked about, how can we be even dealing with this 40 years, 45 years later? How can we even be
55
dealing with this?
Yeah.
55. I don't even know math. That's so confusing.
Only because I'm 50, and it was 5 years before I was
I think
born.
because it's trained. It's really trained. A kid now, or even somebody that has those essentially racist or has something against a black man or a black woman, they were trained. That's what their families have been, and it's hard to change anybody. So if it's something that he saw from aunts, uncles, and cousins, and they think it's right, he thinks his family is right, so that's how he's going to be. Yeah. And that's the hard part to change. And that's where I've gotten into conversations with a few of my friends, and you're not going to change those people. The majority of the people don't feel that way or don't think that way. But then when I'm a big against media guy, but when you start to see the media feeds that, the media picks on that one little thing, when in all reality, that's not the way the majority thinks or feels, but they make it seem like it is. So
we've touched on media a couple times tonight. Fox is supposedly the right slanting news media outlet, and the MSNBC is the left slanting media outlet. And I don't religiously listen to anything, to be honest. I hear information, I process it, and I come up with my own opinion. I find myself listening to Fox News in the radio these days as I'm driving, and then I'll listen to MSNBC News on the radio as well. And it's amazing to me that I can hear about the same exact topic in completely different reporting on both stations. It's amazing to me that happens, because until that changes, we'll always have diversity. I mean, divisiveness,
right.
And there's too much power with the media. So then you go back to, you start thinking about Trump, and he talks about that. He says, guys, this is fake news. There's not, the information that's being passed out there to the majority of people is not accurate, and it could be from either side, or either one of those stations. And then it just trickles down. It's a trickle down theory from there.
Well, as a member of the media,
oh yes,
I will tell you, when we were growing up and in our 20s, there was headline news, and it was like news. But nowadays, with social media and the internet and everything is so instantaneous, the news where helicopter crash, battleship is on fire, that stuff is instantaneous. Those shows, they can't keep up with that. So all of those shows, shows are opinions. It's the Rachel Maddow. It's Neil Cavuto. It's
See, I don't even know what those names mean.
they're just people, and their shows, they're opinion shows. They're like, they're not news. It's their slant on MSNBC, on CNN, Fox News, and then the worst of all, the OAN garbage. And so if you're looking for news, good luck. If you're looking for, if you're really mad at Trump, go watch MSNBC for a half hour. You'll feel good about yourself. If you're pissed off about the Democrats, Congress, go watch Fox News for a little while. It'll make you feel good about yourself. But if you want news that's unbiased, it's hard to find. I have the Reuters app, and I find that that's pretty much the only place I can find news that's not slanted either way. But that's news has changed. Yeah. It's now, if you watch it, it's somebody's show. It's the Jay Tapper show. Mm-hmm. It's the Como show. It's Wolf Blitzer show. And it's all just slanted on their opinion. It's not news.
So it's all about ratings and entertainment, and at the end of the day, the dollar.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So, from a current event standpoint, I think we've covered everything. We've got a lot of time into this tonight. I think I want to touch just a little bit on sports, because live sports is coming back this week. We're going to see some exhibition baseball this week, and then the following week we've got some real baseball, and then we've got some real hockey coming up, and real NBA. Well, as real as it can be. So none of these games are going to be played in front of fans. Does that make it real, or does it make it just a game? Is it a pickup game with a television crew, or is it real?
How many games did I play in college with no fans? It was still a real game.
Yeah, if there's no fans watching, did it really happen? I guess. So it's going to be interesting. Somebody asked me today if I missed baseball, watching baseball on TV, the Red Sox playing, and I'm somebody. Rob, I'm sure you're the same. I know Chris. I'm somebody that watched every 162 games a year and loved every inning of it. I'm a baseball purist. I'm a baseball guy. I love that. Love watching it. I hate when I miss a game or an inning, but I didn't miss it over these past 3 or 4
I know.
months.
I was surprised how little I missed it.
I was surprised as well.
I missed it a ton.
You missed watching on TV? And that's interesting, because you actually are living it. You coaching, you're actually doing things on a day-to-day basis with baseball. So it's interesting that you did miss it. Maybe that's why. Maybe because you are still involved. I didn't miss it. I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like on TV with no fans, but I didn't miss it nearly as much as I thought I would.
Yeah, I thought I would miss it a lot, and I think it's because didn't have a lot of aspirations for the Red Sox this year. Mookie was gone. Pitching staff's a joke. I wasn't a lot of aspirations for it, so a lot of times I had it on as like background noise, and I was surprised how much I do want to see it back, but I was not like fiending for it like I thought I was going to be. But,
I think I'm more excited for hockey and football.
I'm very much looking forward to see what football, particularly with Cam Newton back with the Patriots.
Or Tom.
I love Cam
TB12
Newton.
down in Tampa.
I love the Cam Newtons with the Patriots. I don't even know who you're talking about.
And he's out for blood.
TB nothing.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You
very, very angry.
I'm not happy with TB nothing.
No. Don't be not happy with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick.
No,
it's their fault.
They get the next best. So we got CM.
Wait, now Cam Newton's the next best thing.
CN1.
Wow.
Next best option for what was available.
He's the goat.
Well, there's still people. Zolak's convinced that Stidham's going to play. He doesn't even think Cam's going to play.
No, that's not. I don't see how that.
I don't either.
If he doesn't play, it's going to.
I'll tell you what. If Cam Newton's healthy and Stidham ends up beating him out, then great.
Yeah.
That's good. Then that's good for
I think
the
Cam
Patriots.
he got a bad rap at the end. He's a freak, man. He can. I think his accuracy will kill him a little bit, but he just creates so much that I think he will do well if Belichick and McDaniels can come up with a scheme with him where he does throw more. Because if he runs, the same thing's going to happen. He can run a little bit, but same thing's going to happen to Mahomes. He's great now, but he's going to keep doing that. He's going to he dislocated his kneecap last year, and if they're smart, they just gave him $500 million. Like, you're not allowed to go past the line of scrimmage anymore, and he could sling the ball around, but
well, that's part of his game, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to wrap this up, or you want to keep going?
I want to play. Neither of you mentioned being big fans of the NBA. I am. I'm a basketball junkie. It's a curse. I understand why people don't like it as much as me, but the In the Bubble vlogs that these guys are making on YouTube are gold. You gotta check them out. They are gold.
You should put a little clip in here on this one on it, because I don't even know what you're talking about. I like the NBA. I love the Celtics. I love Brad Stevens' Celtics teams, and I'm looking forward to see what happens. They have just as good a chance as anybody else is winning the championship this year now. LeBron's a sneeze away from being off the Lakers, and Anthony Davis. I don't know.
Yeah, could be anybody.
I think it could be. So the COVID list versus the injury list. What do you think? Do you think?
And that's baseball you're talking about?
Anything. I think any sport right now has to have some sort of a plan, because it apparently somebody's going to catch it during the season, and they will have been in contact with people the day before. So what is the contingency plan? Have they reported those?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's up to the bargaining between the union and
Puig just tested positive. He had signed with the Braves. Tested positive. Now they're not signing him. They didn't sign the contract.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody I don't, baseball not as much, because you can field ground balls at shortstop while somebody else is fielding ground balls at third base, and you may not come in contact essentially. I guess they've got protocols in place where they're separated in the clubhouse and so on and so forth. But if you're a football team, and you're lining up on the line of scrimmage, and your center contracts the virus, left guard, right guard, right guard gets it, then all of a sudden your tackle has it, and then the tight end gets it.
Right. Well, I think that's what they're going to look for. If one person gets it, and the next thing you know, they test the team, and 7 people have it. If that happens, I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to shut it down.
Finish the season.
I don't see how because they're not in a bubble. There's so many players on a team, and the NFL is known to be the least, for caring about players' welfare, is the NFL. We could do a whole show on that.
The players don't really follow rules too well either.
No, they don't. So I don't see how this finishes at all. I mean, this is going to be a mess. What's the rule? You can't exchange jerseys at the end? But you can tackle each other for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
You can tackle each other for 40 minutes, but don't give them your shirt.
Yeah.
Because it could be contaminated.
Crazy. Good stuff. Yeah.
You want to hit on the Redskins for a second?
Yep.
The Redskins?
Yeah.
Not so much the sexual harassment allegations, which that's not a Redskins thing. That could be any of the NFL teams, and you wouldn't be surprised, because it's kind of it's a man town down there pretty much. So talking about the decision to finally change the logo and the mascot, for me it was always about if there are Native Americans who want it, then fine. But if the only people that are crying about it are the far left tree huggers, then screw it, But if there's actual Native Americans that want it changed, then I'm cool with it. And it seems that way now.
But there are still some that don't. I think it might have been a grandson or great-grandson of the guy who designed the logo for the Redskins was Native American, and he's upset that they're changing it.
Yeah.
He doesn't think there's an issue with it. So it's like anything else, though. You're gonna have some people that agree. You're gonna have some people that don't. If it has racial, undertones, then yeah, I think you should change it. And I honestly haven't done enough on the term Redskin and what it exactly comes from, so I won't talk on it. But If it does, then yeah, you change it. But does the Atlanta Braves, is that, you know, a bad thing? No, it's a good thing.
Kansas City Chiefs.
But
The
at the same
Seminoles.
time, here's the thing, and that I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, what really makes them upset? It's not a matter of using the name. Are you using it as a mascot? So it's almost like, you know, it's like the Philly Fanatic or the Redskins. Is that,
Right.
you know, do you see it that way? That's so you're taking their heritage and it's almost like a punchline.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What am I, a clown?
Yeah.
What
Do
am
I
I here?
amuse you?
So Redskin versus Chief, right? So Chief is potentially a noble thing, and Redskin might be a
But even
slur or
with Chief, the Chief, you're still using it as a mascot. It's no different than Wally. You know, like you don't hear anything else like Red Sox, White Sox, Reds, and then all of a sudden it's Redskins or Braves. It's specific to an Indian. Yeah, you it's kind of playing it down where, oh yeah, you're just a mascot. We're using you as a mascot. So that's how I kind of, at first I was like, it doesn't matter. But then when you really think about it that way, like, all right, that is something where it could be upsetting to people.
Did they come up with a new name yet?
The
No, they're-
DC Redskins.
Yeah, I saw the Onion. That was awesome.
They kept
The name changed. We
They
changed the
to
name.
DC
What's the
Redskins.
problem? So in this town, the middle school, Litchfield, the Raiders, they are going to change the name and the mascot.
From the Raiders.
From the Raiders.
Yeah. Well, the logo is an Indian.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that Chief Pasquanaway?
I don't know. I know that before we had the middle school, Griffin was the only school in town, and it was from first grade to eighth grade, and they were the Raiders. And then when the middle school, they adopted the Raiders, and the Griffin were the Tigers, Campbell the Cougars, which may make some middle-aged women who are promiscuous a little upset, the
Yeah.
Cougars. So they want to change the middle school to another cat type of thing. And they want to change, they may want to make the color scheme for the whole town red and black instead of different colors.
Hmm.
That's something they were talking about. So it's not
Matt
just the
Is
logo.
Matt gonna have to change the flag?
No, I don't think there's any Native Americans.
No, but
in
if
it-
it's all
on it.
black and red, you might want to change the flag to black and red.
No, I like the flag. Do you like the flag?
I think so. I don't know. I haven't seen it on social media enough yet to tell me what.
We'll have to get Matt on a show.
Not bad. Not bad.
All right.
All right, this is a good one. I'm good.
Good opening show. Good
opening
guest.
show. Yep.
For a
Good
last minute
guest,
guest,
actually.
you can't do better than that.
I
mean,
know,
that's
that
good
was
stuff.
It was good stuff. I would love to have you on again at some point too.
Yeah.
To be honest, and we'll have you be the counterpoint to somebody some down the road probably.
Glenn Murray? No.
Yeah.
I think Glenn and I see a lot more eye to eye than we realize.
He's definitely a little bit more left than you are though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a little bit.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
I'm on
So,
the right, just kind of closer to the middle. That's all.
Thanks for being here.
That's where you gotta
We'll
be.
see you again soon. And next week we have Key Perry, who is a African American former college athlete who has some unique perspective on some things, and I'm looking forward to hearing those thoughts as well. And peace.